I recently heard from a viewer from my latest historical video on J.E. Henry and his logging operation, and the viewer expressed appreciation for the video, but he also revealed that he was the great-great-grandson of James Everett Henry. And actually, first, let me just state here that I do, in fact, have a Facebook page where I post my more polished New Hampshire content, so you can go check that out if you're on Facebook. It's Keller Nunley or Keller NH, but it has a beefier audience following. Anytime you see the ending title screen of Capturing New Hampshire, you can be pretty clued in that the video is headed for that Facebook page. And I've only recently really started posting there again, just as an effort to sort of make some more meaningful content. And I will often post the video here first as a sort of test audience. Anytime I have a spelling mistake or a research mistake or a pronunciation mistake, 9 times out of 10, someone here will point it out, which I love. The videos on Facebook usually attract kind of in the tens of thousands, so if there is a mistake, I'd rather make it here with a smaller audience who I believe has a lot more context as to who I am, what I make, and just kind of a better understanding of my flawed artistic process. I actually famously uploaded a video to Facebook years ago about the history of Colebrook, New Hampshire, in which I pronounced Coos County as Coos County. Don't ask me why, but unexpectedly that video was shared thousands of times, and the comment section was completely saturated with people correcting my pronunciation, and it became the flagship takeaway of what at the time was my most successful video. Anyways, I digress. The Facebook viewer who reached out to me, the descendant of J.E. Henry, said that he loved the video and appreciated someone telling the story of his family. The controversial aspect of Henry's logging operation is, as it relates to the conservation, it's one of the more super interesting aspects of the story, in my opinion. But unsurprisingly, there are a decent amount of comments on the video and the video shares that express a rather distaste for J.E. Henry. And when this J.E. family member reached out to me, my gut reaction was sort of like, oh boy, here we go. But, I figured that they'd be upset. After all, I put devil horns on his great-great-grandfather. But, I thought it was pretty justified for the storytelling aspect that I was going for, but you never know. Thankfully, that viewer didn't see it that way. But it was an interesting moment to reflect on. In my daily life, I have lots of strong opinions on the effects of industry and nature and the planet at large, so I too likely would have disapproved of James Henry had he lived today. However, the amateur historian in me sees the importance of appreciating all moral standings of our past. I'm a deep supporter of renewable energy, but I also have a deep appreciation and interest for John D. Rockefeller. I have an allegiance to unions, creative property rights, and a distaste for litigious monopolies, but I find Walt Disney and the Disney Company to be one of the most profound creative and business endeavors in human history. So it's easy to villainize historical characters like J.E. Henry by the modern standards of conservation, but the choices people make throughout time are typically a product of their environment. No pun intended here, but For a majority of this country's history, the quote, modern world was built and fueled by lumber. In the eyes of the 1880s, Henry was providing this super essential and crucial service and product. And now, I'm sure you could dig up all sorts of valid arguments regarding the labor rights and the treatment of his workers, but I think it's difficult to sequester that argument to just the 1880s anyways. And I recently began doing sort of a feasibility study of covering the history of the KKK in New Hampshire. It's probably not a video that I'll move forward with at this time, but I was just curious. And one local author kind of warned me that the keepers of New Hampshire's history don't really appreciate when someone uses it to shed a negative light on the state's history. And this author had covered a semi-related topic for a book in the past. And I think what makes history and even your hometown's history so rich is that it's never absolved of anything. Actions have results. Those results contribute to the story. I find that people get really upset when someone tears down a historical home or building. They just say, like, couldn't we have preserved it? But, I would love to agree and have something around forever, but that's terribly selfish to my personal lived portion of this forever constant march of time. I might appreciate that old abandoned building, but keeping it might deprive a future generation of appreciating whatever happens next. So, how many times have I written in a script, it burned down in, and then this was replacing it? So, I don't know. But had J.E. Henry's logging operation been relevant forever and, let's say, super sustainable and never potentially ruin the White Mountains, it would probably all still be private property, just completely plastered with no trespassing signs. So it wouldn't have been enjoyed or appreciated by millions of people today in that region. So his poor logging practices helped inspire the continued protection of New England's White Mountain ranges. So what I guess I'm saying is, while I wouldn't advocate for anything Henry did to happen again, I certainly wouldn't spit on his grave. I don't know anything about the inner minutiae of his personality or his personal life. I just think the legacy and the ripple effect is worthy of respect. And for all we know, and in my opinion, he played a role in saving the whites. Unfortunately, he just had to help destroy it first, and that dichotomy is what makes it a story. Good versus evil. I don't think it's the story that is worthy of scrutiny, but rather the outcome that rightfully welcomes it. And I don't think I'm in the minority with this outlook, and forgive me if I'm painting a picture of, that the video or J. Henry got all this hate in the comment section, because that would not be accurate. I'm simply just reflecting on a moment when a through line, however vague it might be, from the actual James Henry himself, as if he had seen the video. What would he have thought of himself being largely viewed as a destructive force by way of future moral standards? How would he defend himself? Would he have defended himself? Had he known that Lincoln and the surrounding towns would eventually try to avoid upholding him as a net positive to the world, how would that have made him feel? We'll never know, nor does it really matter, because he died a really long time ago.